ultra-powerful explosion happened just outside the Milky Way galaxy, kinda next door in cosmic terms, and it was unlike anything we've witnessed before. The thing kept blasting again and again, shooting out crazy strong bursts of energy called gamma rays. It was almost an entire day of non-stop firing back in July 2025. In gamma ray time, that's basically forever, because normally gamma ray bursts last from a few milliseconds to a few minutes, not hours on end. But the craziest thing is that this phenomenon might be linked to an elusive and mysterious kind of black hole, the existence of which we haven't proven yet. Scientists gave this phenomenon a complex sciencey name. Usually, these gamma ray bursts happen when a giant star goes off. One big dramatic exit, and that's it. But this space diva didn't get the memo and kept coming back for encores. NASA's Fermi telescope first spotted this bizarre space performance on July 2nd. But then some other space gear, the Einstein probe, realized it had already been blasting the day before. Scientists tossed around a few guesses. It could have been a massive star, like 40 times the size of our Sun, that went out in a special kind of way. Not your average star demise, but one that somehow kept its cosmic engine running, like a car that won't stop even after the gas runs out. Another theory is even wilder. Some scientists think those space fireworks might have gone off when a star, likely a tiny one called a white dwarf, got shredded by a black hole. It's like a cosmic blender moment. They call it a tidal disruption event, or TDE. You see, not every star goes out with a giant boom like in the movies. Most just get old, puff up, and slowly fade away, leaving behind their tired little cores. Those leftovers are called white dwarfs, star corpses made of super weird squished up gas. You see, what happens to a star when it goes off depends on how big it was when it was born. Stars that start out kind of small, about the same size as the Sun or up to 10 times bigger, usually end up as white dwarfs. Most of the time, these stars run out of fuel and blow off their outer layers, creating a glowing cloud called a planetary nebula. What's left behind is the super hot dense core, about the size of Earth. That's the white dwarf. They're still really hot when they form and slowly cool down over time. After billions of years, they might turn into cold, dark, black dwarfs. But the universe isn't old enough for any of those to exist yet. Anyway, let's get back to our investigation. If this second theory is right, the black hole responsible for this cosmic show wasn't a regular one. To pull off something like this, it would need to be a super rare kind of black hole. One of those mysterious intermediate mass black holes scientists have been trying to find forever. Before we move further, let's take a look at the black hole lineup. Small ones are called stellar mass black holes. They're formed when massive stars weighing somewhere between 20 to 100 suns collapse. Supermassive black holes are real space behemoths. They're millions and even billions of times heavier than the Sun. They chill at the centers of galaxies. Even our home Milky Way galaxy has one called Sagittarius A star. This black hole is mostly dormant. It absorbs gas or dust only occasionally, but its estimated mass is millions of times that of our Sun. There might be one more type of black hole, primordial black holes. Scientists think they might have formed in the very first moments after the birth of the universe. That's when pockets of hot material could be dense enough to form black holes. Their masses might have ranged from 100,000 times less than a paperclip to 100,000 times more than that of the Sun. After that, the universe expanded and cooled very fast, and the conditions for forming black holes this way came to an end. These days, 13.8 billion years later, astronomers still haven't found definitive proof that those primordial black holes even existed. On the other hand, it's possible that they could have evaporated as space became older, due to certain processes happening at the edges of their event horizons, aka the points of no return. According to theoretical predictions, lower mass black holes with less mass than a mountain could evaporate more quickly than larger ones. If this idea is correct, then many of those early black holes have already completely dissipated. But more massive primordial black holes could still be lingering across the universe. Anyway, if we get back to the already proven kinds of black holes between stellar-sized black holes and supermassive ones, there are elusive intermediate mass black holes. Scientists think they exist, but they're like Bigfoot. Lots of theories, not much proof. Astronomers think that small black holes might crash into each other and merge over time to form those medium ones, but spotting one is almost impossible. They're sneaky and silent. People often tend to mistake them for star graveyards, clusters of smaller black holes just hanging out. Sometimes, intermediate mass black holes even hide behind groups of stars that orbit them real close. The best way to catch such a black hole is to look for clues. Scientists measure the mass of black holes when they crash into each other, or spot them mid-meal when they're munching on a nearby star. So far, around 300 possible intermediate mass black holes have been found, but no one is totally sure which ones are the real deal. And now, astronomers think they've finally caught this super rare missing link black hole. Right now, it might be snacking on a poor star way out at the edge of some distant galaxy. In a study published on April 11, 2025, scientists talk about a black hole called HLX-1. It's hanging out about 40,000 light-years from the center of its galaxy and roughly 450 million light-years away from us. Using data from NASA's Hubble Space Telescope and the Chandra X-ray Observatory, the team spotted a bright flash, that very tidal disruption event that occurs when a black hole tears a nearby star to pieces. Then they ran computer simulations to recreate the whole thing, and it showed HLX-1 stretching the poor star like space spaghetti. By the way, this process is indeed called spaghettification. Astronomers have their own cosmic jokes, you know? Anyway, scientists first spotted something weird going on with HLX-1 back in 2009. NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory caught a super bright glow coming from deep space. Turns out, it could have been another tidal disruption event. The glow from HLX-1 hits its peak around 2012, and it's been fading ever since. But of course, there's a catch. Nobody's totally sure it's a real intermediate mass black hole. You see, that light might not be from a shredded star at all. It could be from an accretion disk, a giant, super hot ring of gas and dust swirling around the black hole's edges. And the only way to figure out what's really going on is to keep watching. If the light keeps fading and doesn't flare back up, then yeah, that poor star probably got eaten. Intermediate mass black holes are a big deal because they're the missing link in the black hole family tree. The connect-the-dots piece in understanding how black holes grow up. There's also an idea that intermediate mass black holes might start out as big stellar mass black holes and just keep bulking up over billions of years until they become those massive, city-sized monsters at galaxy centers. That means most of their lives, they're probably lurking way out on the galaxy's edge. Like HLX-1, before they get launched into deep space. And now, some scientists think there could be a sneaky intermediate mass black hole hanging out on the outskirts of our Milky Way right at this moment. Even if there isn't, the research team is still keeping an eye on what's happening after that blast and trying to piece together what in the universe actually caused it. Next up on their to-do list is figuring out exactly where it happened. Once they pin down the location, they'll be able to measure just how much cosmic energy this thing pumped out and how big the explosion really was.
Now, everything in the universe is in a constant, quite predictable motion. Some very complicated math can help us predict what the night sky will look like in hundreds of years. That's why astronomers make up entire calendars of unusual celestial events. So, let's find out more about the most interesting astronomical events that are waiting for us in the next 100 years. In 2029, asteroid Apophis. Our solar system is full of various asteroids, from small pebbles to giant mountain-like boulders, and many of them are alarmingly close to Earth. In 2029, one of these asteroids is supposed to fly past us. It's called 99942 Apophis. The asteroid is quite large and has a diameter of about 1,200 feet. NASA discovered it back in 2004, and it was considered one of the most dangerous objects orbiting the Sun. That's because, on April 13, 2029, it will be just a few steps away from colliding with Earth. Even the name of this asteroid is quite frightening. Apophis is the name of the ancient Egyptian deity of chaos and destruction, a giant serpent that embodied chaos and was the opponent of Ra and light. Ah, what symbolism! But don't worry. Scientists say that despite such alarming proximity, the asteroid won't actually hit us. It will fly about 20,000 miles away from Earth. Yeah, it's closer to us than the Moon and even some NASA satellites, but fortunately, it's still a miss. The event itself will be quite beautiful. Apophis will be visible in the sky even without a telescope. And if for some reason you miss it, don't worry. In 2068, it will return again and also fly near Earth. 2029, the darkest lunar eclipse of the century. Now, a lunar eclipse occurs when the Moon is completely in Earth's shadow. Sometimes, when this happens, our natural satellite seems bright red, and it can look scary, but don't worry. It's simply because red rays penetrate our atmosphere easier. Such eclipses, unlike solar ones, occur quite often. Usually, the closer the Moon is to the center of the shadow, the darker the eclipse is. And according to scientists, on July 26, 2029, we'll see one of the darkest eclipses in the last 100 years. The eclipse itself will last approximately 1 hour and 42 minutes, and the whole event, from the moment Earth's shadow touches the Moon until the satellite leaves it, will last about 3 hours and 40 minutes. The event will be best seen in South America. So book your tickets now, huh? 2040, the Parade of Planets. Now, the Parade of Planets is the moment when all the planets in our solar system line up. Of course, they won't form a perfectly straight line, but it'll still be quite an impressive view. Some planets, like Jupiter and Venus, can be clearly visible even in big cities and with the unaided eye. But during the Parade of Planets, especially if you go out of town where it's darker, you'll be able to observe all of them. According to NASA, the next parade is going to happen on September 8, 2040. So, stock up on telescopes. 2052, the brightest supermoon of the 21st century. Now, the Moon's orbit isn't exactly perfectly round. Our natural satellite travels around Earth following an elliptical orbit. Because of this, there are 2 points, the closest to Earth and the farthest. The farthest point is called the apogee, and the closest is the perigee. However, since everything in space is a bit unstable, some perigees may be closest to us than others. Yes, all these orbital changes are quite confusing. Even scientists sometimes find it difficult to predict them accurately. But anyway, when the full moon is especially close to the Earth, we get the so-called supermoon. The name for this event was introduced in 1979. At these moments, the moon seems very big to us, just like in all those unrealistic sci-fi movies and cartoons. It can also look up to 30% brighter than usual, and the darker the rest of the sky is, the brighter the moon may seem. Now, something particularly cool will happen on December 6, 2052. It'll be the closest and brightest supermoon in the entire 21st century. Our beloved satellite will be as much as 17,000 miles closer to us than usual. Now, that one will be pretty hard to miss. 2060, the brightest comet. Comets are dusty remnants of space objects that flew through the universe thousands of years ago, and there are thousands of them in our solar system alone. Every time a comet approaches the Sun, it heats up and begins to emit gases and dust. It starts looking like a little star. Its head turns into a large, fuzzy gas cloud. And thanks to solar winds, it also gets that beautiful long tail. All this creates a stunning view, and we can even observe such comets with the unaided eye. The closer to the Earth a comet passes, the brighter it looks in the sky. Comet 15P Finley, named after its discoverer, will visit us on October 27, 2060. And we've actually known about this since the 19th century. It will be one of the closest comets to approach Earth in the last 100 years. It'll fly by at a distance of just 4.6 million miles. The view is sure to be very beautiful. 2084 Earth Eclipse. Now this is one of the most exciting events that will happen in the 21st century. And unfortunately, we won't be able to observe it from Earth. This event will only be visible from Mars. Earth and the Moon will pass by the Sun looking like bright silhouettes. The last time that happened was 1984. Such an event is called a planetary transit. It's kind of a solar eclipse, but with other planets instead of the Moon. In our case, it's more like Earth eclipse. In other words, Martians would be able to see Earth passing by the Sun, blocking its light. And who knows? On November 10, 2084, there may be indeed people on Mars who could observe this. But even if not, we'll still be able to see the footage of this event from space probes. For example, NASA Perseverance rover has already sent us photos of such an eclipse on Mars, where the Mars satellite Phobos flew in between it and the Sun. 2100. The North Star will be closest to true north. Ah, the famous North Star. Sailors have been using it for centuries to indicate where north is. But what's funny is that the North Star isn't actually perfectly aligned with the north. That's because our planet doesn't have a fixed axis. It moves in space with time, rotating like a giant spinning top. This is called the orbital precession. Because of this, the North Star doesn't remain in the sky in the same place. It moves, albeit very slowly. So slowly that it's not even noticeable unless you're standing at the South or North Pole. However, on March 24, 2100, the polar star will finally appear above the true north of our planet. And after that, it will begin to gradually move away again, and will return there only after 26,000 years. So this is truly a rare event. But that's not all. Unfortunately, it will be something like a parting gift to us from the North Star. Earth's axis is constantly shifting, and because of this, in about 2,000 years, the North Star will be completely replaced by another star, Gamma Cephus. In other words, the event of 2100 will be something like its farewell performance. Beautiful, but kinda sad. That was the calendar of the most interesting astronomical events that will happen over the next 100 years. To witness many of them, you don't even need to buy a telescope. They will be visible to the unaided eye. All you need to do is, well, survive until then. If you do, they will be astounding to observe, especially considering that some of them are once-in-a-lifetime events. So make sure not to miss them. So, astronauts always have a lot of work to do. They deal with breakdowns on the ship, go into outer space to repair something, conduct experiments, keep daily records, report about everything to the center of the Earth, and sometimes meet unknown mysterious things from outer space. Let's see which ones. So you're alone in a small spaceship. You have our big planet on one side and the boundless black space on the other. You're checking instruments, doing some astronaut things, when you hear a strange knock. Someone or something is knocking on your ship. You realize that this is impossible, but then the knocking repeats. You look out of the porthole window, but don't see anyone. Then you report the incident to the dispatcher on the ground. No one knows what it could be. You've been training your stress tolerance and psyche for many years, but now you're a little nervous. Astronaut Yang Liwei first heard a mysterious knocking sound in 2003 when he was inside a small spacecraft as part of the first Chinese space mission. Yang said the sound was like hitting an iron bucket with a wooden hammer. He also noticed that the knock came neither from the outside of the ship nor from the inside. He couldn't determine its source. When Yang returned to Earth, he tried to reproduce the knock so that experts could discover its nature. But no one managed to find out what it was. A similar story repeated itself with other Chinese astronauts in 2005 and 2008. Yang's colleagues suggested that the ship could make the sound due to the hull's expansion or compression. The temperature inside the ship was very different from the temperature in outer space. and this could cause the metal hull to make a sound similar to a knock. Hey, don't knock it. Another mysterious sound was heard by NASA astronauts on Apollo 10 while orbiting the Moon. It was a strange whistle of unknown origin. One of the astronauts described it as cosmic music. The information about this incident was classified for a long time, but recently NASA has explained the mystery. The whistling sound was just some radio interference. But it doesn't mean there are no creepy sounds in space. NASA has launched many research probes into the boundless depths of space. One probe recorded the sounds of Jupiter, another the sounds of Saturn. The third probe recorded dust particles and small rocks crashing into the ship. Technically, these are not sounds because sound waves cannot exist in space. The ships recorded radio emissions from various objects, and then scientists transformed these waves into sounds. And the coolest thing is that you can find all this on the internet. There were many rumors and legends about Neil Armstrong and his landing on the Moon. One of the most popular myths tells how the astronaut saw strange spaceships on the Moon. The astronaut never commented on this case, and his testimony and the data he gave to the communication center on Earth was classified. But, according to the legend, Armstrong said creepy words when he was on the Earth satellite and saw something. "These babies were huge, sir. Enormous. You wouldn't believe it. I'm telling you, there are other spacecraft out here, lined up on the far side of the crater's edge. They're on the Moon watching us." After that, he returned to the spaceship and flew to Earth. Yep, that smells like an urban legend for sure. In 2005, the commander of the International Space Station, Leroy Chiao, saw strange lights during a spacewalk. He described them as a set of white lights that rose from Earth and passed through him. His colleagues reported that it could have been an optical illusion caused by many fishing boats with searchlights along the coast of South America. Leroy saw the lights from the boats refracting and passing through his helmet. He doubted this version because he was at an altitude of 230 miles and the boats had to have some pretty powerful lights. But the astronaut was also skeptical about the extraterrestrial origin of these lights. One of the most common mysterious phenomena associated with space is glowing lights, but sometimes people notice something more material. For example, NASA astronaut Story Musgrave saw a tube that was flying in space, moving like a snake. He suggested it was a living creature from another planet or something like that. Of course, no one believed him. People assumed that the astronaut had seen some detached part from the ISS or a piece of space debris, like a hose or a tube. But the astronaut was sure that this tube had been moving like a living organism. However, the version with flying garbage sounds much more legit. During the Apollo 11 mission, astronauts reported strange light flashes in their eyes. The members of the Apollo 12 and 13 teams saw the same thing. The strangest thing was that they saw these flashes even with their eyes closed. After that, many astronauts reported seeing bright lights. They saw flashes before going to bed and in dark rooms. Some of them were bright, and some were dim and had different colors. During spacewalks, they repeated every few minutes. Scientists conducted experiments on Earth to figure out the nature of this strange phenomenon. As a result, NASA concluded that the astronauts had seen cosmic rays of an unknown nature. Researchers suggested that the particles of these rays directly affected the receptors of the retina. The astronauts' optic nerves felt the radiation, and their brains reacted to it with light flashes. During the Gemini 4 space mission, astronaut James McDivitt saw a strange geometric object in space, similar to a tin can with a pencil sticking out of it. As soon as the media found out about it, newspapers started claiming that James had seen a ship of another civilization. Then, a few years later, the astronaut refuted this theory. He saw some photos taken inside the ship and noticed the same tin can on it. It turned out that this was the reflection of some bolts in the window pane. By the way, this was one of the many times astronauts confused the details of the ship with some weird space stuff. In 1962, astronaut John Glenn was inside the Friendship 7 spacecraft when he noticed some strange things outside. They looked like tiny glowing fireflies. Glenn immediately reported this to NASA's command post. The dispatchers didn't know how to comment on this message, so the nature of the cosmic fireflies remains unsolved. But then, almost a year later, astronomers found out what it had been. At first, they thought the fireflies were pieces of metal torn off some part of the ship. But then they realized the glowing lights were droplets of frozen liquid that shifted and cracked in outer space. One of the strangest cases in the history of early space travel occurred during the mission of the Gemini 6 spacecraft on December 16, 1965. There were two astronauts, Wally Schirra and Tom Stafford, on board. They were preparing to return to Earth, but saw something strange in outer space. Wally contacted the Mission Control Center and reported he was observing an unknown object similar to a satellite. It was moving from north to south, somewhere in the polar orbit of the planet. The object was approaching them, and the astronauts could see the details. It was an unknown spaceship with a pilot dressed in a red suit. Wally heard through the radio that voices in the command center became tense. No one knew what it was and how to react to the unknown ship. Then, at that moment, they began to hear what sounded like music. Somehow, the song Jingle Bells started playing on the radio. Wally Schirra performed it on the harmonica, and the command center realized this was all a hoax. Schirra and Stafford cooked up this Christmas gag a few weeks before the flight. They wanted to cheer up their colleagues on Earth by saying they had seen Santa Claus in a spaceship. When Schirra finished the song, the guys from Earth relaxed and said it was too much. It's still one of the most famous jokes astronauts have ever played. Ah, beautiful! You're walking with your friend and look up at the sky. The sun looks a bit different today, like it has some kind of ring around it, a rainbow type thing. Huh? Hey, look at that! Your friend pulls his head up out of his phone. You shouldn't look directly into the… Stop everything, he says. It's a sun halo. We need to find shelter now, unless you have the world's biggest umbrella on you. A sun's halo is nature's sign that there's a snow or rainstorm on its way. It's caused by clouds that are made of bazillions of small ice crystals flying around 20,000 feet. Sunlight goes through those crystals, which causes the light to split and refract, like when there's a rainbow. Now, don't look at the sun halo directly. It's going to be tempting because it's not something you see every day. Plus, it's really beautiful. But ultraviolet light can burn the exposed tissue of your retina and cause serious damage. So, not worth it. Grab some sunglasses and you're good to go. This phenomenon lasts about 40 minutes. These clouds are the same ones that can cause a spooky ring around the moon at night sometimes. Nature sends early signs of disasters in many ways. J-shaped trees means there's a landslide coming. Since the ground is moving slowly, the trees grow into the super selfiable shape. Try to find a flat area and avoid going near any trees, unless you have superhuman strength. You're on a nice walk on the beach. Sand, sun, not a cloud in the sky. Then, out of nowhere, you see the ocean going back away from the shore. Suddenly, you can even see bits of coral, small fish, and other random small sea animals. That's a good sign to leave. There might be a tsunami on the way. A tsunami is formed when there's an earthquake underwater, and it can hit the coast at 500 miles per hour. It's mostly a Pacific Ocean thing, but why risk it? If there's a channel of choppy water on the beach, stay away. There might be a rip current under the surface that can be extremely dangerous. Sometimes waves hit the shore in a weird way, which forms these rip currents. You might see a strange gap in the waves, or you might notice random bits of seaweed going in all different directions. If you don't ever find yourself caught in a rip current, try to stay afloat and don't waste your energy swimming against the current. Yell out for help and try to float your way along the beach. Once you break out of the channel, swim diagonally to the shore. If you find yourself in the ocean and see a group of sharks swimming, okay, this scenario doesn't sound good either way. Well, the good news is they're not necessarily coming for you. The bad news? The sharks might be trying to escape from a huge tropical storm or even a hurricane. Sharks can sense these things, so when nature gets angry, they group together and swim deep under the surface to get to safety. You probably shouldn't follow them. Good luck! The golden rule since ancient times: follow the animals. Insects, rats, and snakes leave their homes a couple of days before really big earthquakes. Scientists can't track or really explain how they know it's coming. It seems animals really can sense earthquakes, maybe because they feel those smaller initial shock waves that we don't even notice. What if you see animals running towards you? Well, that could mean you're about to get eaten for breakfast. Or it means there's a wildfire behind them. Amphibians like frogs, toads, and salamanders try to protect themselves by burrowing down into the ground. Others just run. Before you start running alongside them, check to see if you can see smoke. You don't want to sprint flat out for nothing. Well, it's not just animals. We can spot warning signs too. For example, if you notice your hair suddenly starts to stand on end and your jewelry starts to buzz, take shelter right away. Lightning might be about to strike somewhere nearby. If you're outside and can't run into a house, make sure not to stand near any tall structures. Lie flat on the ground. Be near water. Seek shelter under an isolated tree or stand in an open space. And don't stand on top of the Empire State Building. That thing gets zapped hundreds of times a year. Do you like skiing? It's all fun and games until all you can see is white. Avalanches can move up to 80 miles an hour, so watch for some warning signs. Does it feel hollow when you walk on the snow? Are there cracks around your feet? Can you see a huge avalanche coming? Time to go! Sometimes a storm mixes its blue light with the red light from the sun, and you get a pretty impressive green. Enjoy it from a safe distance, preferably indoors. This super tall thundercloud usually means you're about to get smashed by hail, or worse, a tornado. Find cover somewhere, like in an underground parking lot or a basement. It might be a bit embarrassing if you're wrong, though. Okay, we know volcanoes can be dangerous, but the lakes near them? Is anything not a sign of danger? Lakes that are near something boiling hot that never cools, so volcanoes, are like wildly shaken soda cans, just about to burst. The magma that's underground actually pushes carbon dioxide into the bottom of the lake, and that gas stays there, waiting. Then, even something boring like rain can disturb the lake a little too much and bam! Or boom! You get the picture. Diving, swimming, snorkeling, the sea can be amazing, but it's pretty unpredictable. When two wave currents run into each other, they can create a cross sea. It looks pretty cool from far away, but it can be really dangerous for swimmers, surfers, or even ships. There's a strong current roaming around under the surface. You're walking on the beach, apparently every good story starts like this, and all of a sudden, ooh, a cave. How cool is this? You should probably go in there, explore a bit, and no. If there's a full moon out, you might not be able to get out of that cave. A full moon affects the tide and makes it lower than usual. That cave might be more accessible, but instead of an exciting adventure, you could end up trapped in there until the next full moon. Bring a big lunch. A wall cloud is one of those things you're both excited and scared to see. Scared because you don't know what it is. Excited because, well, how often do you see something like that? Whatever you feel, tell your legs to start running. During a thunderstorm, these wall clouds sit lower than anything else and can be up to 5 miles long. And if they start spinning, well, Dorothy ended up in Oz. Who knows where you'll end up? It's 2009 in Italy. A man was hanging out in his kitchen. Then he saw some flickering lights. He knew just what to do. He moved his family to a safe place. A couple of seconds later, a massive earthquake hit the whole region. His family survived thanks to his quick reaction. He knew these flickering lights were actually a sign of an upcoming earthquake. People have been seeing these mysterious lights for ages. Some thought it was some kind of sign coming from space. Scientists never used to take them seriously, But after the invention of photography, more and more evidence of these strange lights appeared. Soon, they realized the connection. The lights appear, and pretty soon, the earthquake hits. After a bit of digging around, they actually found some records of these earthquake lights from hundreds of years ago. There were bluish flames coming out of the ground right before an earthquake. Ooh, creepy. Oh, ocean, come on, not you again. Okay, but just one more. If you see the oceans turned all reddish-brown, don't go in the water or anywhere near it. This red tide is caused by toxic algae and is something you can find all over the world. That toxic algae can be there even if the ocean's a normal color. Getting that stuff all over you can cause some health issues. Rinse yourself off in fresh water as fast as you can. You know, they even wrote a holiday song about it. Algae home for Christmas. No, really. Haha, you come to sunny California and go for a hike in the Santa Lucia Mountains. There, you have a strange, unpleasant feeling, as if someone's watching you. You look around, but don't see a single soul. That's when you glance at the tops of distant mountains in front of you, and your heart skips a beat. Up on the peaks, you can see the outline of a giant humanoid figure, arms stretched out with a magnificent full rainbow circling it. This mysterious figure is dressed in all black. You can't make out any facial expressions or detail, but you can see it moving. Then it vanishes right before your eyes. Congrats! You've just witnessed the Dark Watchers, a phenomenon that's been terrifying hikers in the California mountains for over 300 years. Even now, scientists can't give an exact explanation for this mysterious appearance. What we do know is it's completely natural, probably. One theory claims that there are no silhouettes at all. The human brain just thinks up images created by shadows the clouds cast on the mountains. Over the centuries, people share stories about this legend, and their minds begin to show it, building recognizable images. The same can happen to you, like when you see the contours of a human face on a burnt piece of toast, or the shape of a dog in a passing cloud. The most accepted scientific explanation is what's called a Brocken specter. It's when sunlight gets bent by drops of fog or clouds. That explains the rainbow surrounding these figures. As for the shadow, it's only your own being stretched and projected on the mountains before you. After all, these figures usually show up when the sun is behind the witness. Natural or not, the vanishing mysterious figure scared the wits out of you. So you head east and find yourself in the desert. The blazing sun beats down on your back. There's nothing for hundreds of miles around. Hard to believe this dry, lifeless plain was once the bottom of a lake. You notice a long trail in the sand, as if someone was pushing or pulling something really heavy across the ground. You follow the strange trail, and at the end you find a single large stone. But why would anyone drag a heavy rock across the middle of the desert? But nothing touched this stone. It moved by itself. It's a phenomenon called sailing stones. Every winter, ice covers the ground here. When a strong enough wind blows, the stone starts to glide across the slippery surface. Once the ice melts, all that's left is a winding trail behind a single lonesome rock. Well, for some relief from the scorching California sun, we head to Antarctica. Snow, ice, and more blinding sun. Yep, it's a desert too. The light is almost blinding. You squint, and off in the distance, you see something red sticking out from all the surrounding endless white. As you get closer, you realize it's a waterfall, an ominous red cascade flowing from the glacier. Splashes fly in all directions and stain the white snow. Don't worry, these so-called blood falls are nothing of the sort. Millions of years ago, I wasn't around then, a glacier formed over a pond and blocked access to sunlight, heat, and oxygen. Then the pond managed to break through the glacier with a little trickle of water. When such salty water with high levels of iron meets oxygen, it creates that scarlet rust color. This is the only waterfall of its kind in the world. Now, in the town of Taos, New Mexico, locals hear a strange hum every day, but not all of them. For some reason, only about 2% of the residents can hear the sound. Some theories proposed it's caused by the location's unusual acoustics. Others put it down to some strange auditory hallucination or even something more sinister. Unexplainable sounds happen on other worlds as well. In 2020, the Mars rover recorded a strange hum coming from the red planet. It's a quiet, continuous drone that sometimes fluctuates because of Marsquakes. Back on Earth, we head to the warm rainforests of Southeast Asia. You see a tree that looks as if someone poured paint all over it. But the rainbow eucalyptus was painted by nature. Its unusual bark changes colors over time like a kaleidoscope. It starts off as a bright green shade, then red, orange, purple, and finally brown. Then the colorful cycle starts again. One of the biggest mysteries of nature is ball lightning. It's a glowing blue, orange, or yellow sphere that appears during a thunderstorm. Many witnesses say they hear a hissing sound and detect a strong odor with it. The first mention of ball lightning described it breaking through a window and disappearing. As with any mystery, scientists can't explain the exact cause. A popular theory is that ordinary lightning strikes the ground and causes a reaction between oxygen and vaporized soil elements. Ball lightning often occurs during earthquakes, when it usually takes the form of a blue flame coming out of the ground. The ball lightning phenomenon happens all over the world, but so far, no one's been able to snap a picture of it. There's an extremely unusual volcano in Java. If you go there at night, you'll see an electric blue flame burning from the ground, along with oozing bright blue lava. It's incredibly hot, but that's not actually lava. All this unusual blue is sulfur gas escaping from crevices in the volcano and catching on fire. It also condenses into a liquid form and looks like blue lava flowing down. As soon as you come to the Namib Desert, you immediately notice something very strange. Sprinkled among the dry grasslands are almost perfect circles of dirt where nothing grows. These massive polka dots are called fairy circles, and, you guessed it, nobody really knows what causes them. The likely culprit is termites eating the grass around their underground colony. Well, that could explain the circles' differing sizes. The bugs continue to eat as the colony expands outwards, but they stop before they encroach on a neighboring colony. The patches where you do see grass show a sort of boundary separating different termite populations, or so goes the theory. Heading down under to Australia's Lake Hillier. Your eyes don't deceive you. Yes, that lake is bubblegum pink and is perfectly safe to swim in. The giant pink puddle is a salt lake, and it's not the only one of its kind in the world. Salt lakes are pink because of a kind of algae and other microorganisms living in them. They produce a red pigment to protect themselves from the sun. What's unique about Lake Hillier, though, is the water is still pink even if you scoop it up into a glass, and it remains bright pink all year round. The same can't be said about other pink lakes. Japan is home to one of the most famous active volcanoes in the world. It's special because it creates an incredible natural phenomenon, a dirty thunderstorm. The volcano regularly spews out a black cloud of smoke, ash, and lightning. During an ordinary storm, ice crystals collide with each other and cause discharge, creating lightning. In a dirty thunderstorm, particles of volcanic ash collide instead of ice. A peaceful night on the beach. The waves wash up on the shore and glow neon blue. But it's not the water that's glowing, it's the creatures living in it. This phenomenon is called bioluminescence. Plankton and algae release this glow when waves disturb them. Some fish, squid, and crustaceans can emit neon light as well to lure prey. No time to walk along the shore enjoying the natural light show. Hurry, we're heading out to open sea. There's no storm or wind at all. Which is why it's so surprising when you see a massive wave 5 stories high suddenly sweep across the calm waters. It nearly overturns your boat. But just as soon as it arrives, it vanishes in an instant. What was that? This unpredictable and still unexplained danger is called a rogue wave. One theory of how they form is from the sea's surface encountering a strong headwind. But remember, you didn't feel any wind blowing. Theory number 2, and the most accepted one, different waves combine to form one large one. It's something called kinetic vampirism. Under certain natural conditions, waves accumulate and exchange kinetic energy. Among all the waves, there will be one that absorbs the energy from the others like a vampire. When a lot of energy is accumulated, it releases itself in the form of a giant wave.
If you were visiting Earth from another planet, your rational mind just wouldn't understand how singing dunes and moving balls of lightning were scientifically possible. I bet you'll feel like these images are just stills from your favorite sci-fi movie. You better hope you never find yourself alone near Catatumbo River in Venezuela during one of its lightning storms. Because if you were, you'd be surprised to find out that lightning works both ways, meaning it can come from the sky and from the ground. Terrifying, I know. Scientists think that in this case, it probably happens because of a high presence of uranium in the bedrock. But it can also happen due to cold and warm air currents that meet around that area. This makes the electric field get all charged up and the bolt flips, traveling from ground to cloud. Scientists even have a fancy name for it: upward lightning. This special place called Catatumbo River became famous because of its light shows. Actually, the name means House of Thunder in the local language. This phenomenon happens for up to 160 nights a year, and it can last around 9 hours a day. When scientists counted, they realized that the area could produce anything from 16 to 40 flashes of lightning per minute. Now, you've probably heard of Marco Polo, the 13th century Venetian merchant and world traveler. Well, in one of his voyages, he came across what he could only describe as singing dunes. The dunes literally started rumbling, like they were playing drums, and freaked him out so much he thought it was the works of evil, invisible entities messing with him. Fast forward to our times, and scientists have discovered how sand dunes produce these rumbles. A team of scientists studied a singing dune in Morocco. They chose a large, crescent-shaped one that makes noise all year round. If the wind is right, this dune can sing a few times every afternoon. It turns out that the wind forces sand to accumulate at the top of the dune until the angle of the slope reaches a tipping point of about 35 degrees. This accumulated sand drops down like an avalanche, and that's what produces a sound. The sand needs to be dry enough for the singing to happen, though. They're like nature's boombox. Isn't that something? This next one might be the most disturbing of them all. First, you'll see a flash of lightning. Then, a thundering boom. And finally, a curious light floating through the air and bouncing off surfaces like a white electric ball. Would you also hide under your blanket if you witnessed something like this? That's what an old lady did when she witnessed this from bed in her Chicago apartment. It turns out, people have been swapping their own ball lightning stories for hundreds of years. An English monk's report from the early 1000s might be the oldest version of these accounts. It talks about a fiery globe descending from a storm cloud and falling into the river Thames. The thing is, scientists aren't entirely sure what causes it, but one theory involves lightning striking silica-rich soil. This can vaporize silica, creating tiny particles bound by electrical charges. When these particles react with oxygen, they produce glowing orbs, which can last a few seconds. Some other theories say that it can be linked to miniature black holes, or even hallucinations. But the silica explanation is the best contender so far. What they know for sure is that ball lightning is often linked to stormy weather. If you'd wake up in the middle of a wintry night and saw these lights, you'd probably think otherworldly people were invading our world. Or you'd feel like one of the lucky people who got to see the northern lights during your lifetime. But none are correct. These beautiful shafts of pastel-colored light were photographed by a guy in Ontario, Canada. They happen when tiny, flat ice crystals that usually reside up in the atmosphere float closer to the ground. They're sometimes called columns of violet light, and they reflect light from sources like streetlights or cars. These reflections stretch into tall, colorful columns that look like they're glowing in the sky. The best part is that it's mostly an optical illusion. The pillars aren't really in the air. They're just a trick of light bouncing off the ice. Somewhere near Buffalo, New York, you'll find a surreal combination of the fire and water elements. This phenomenon is called the eternal flame falls, precisely because it never stops burning, even if it's so near the water. This is due to a chemical reaction where gas leaks out of the ground and combusts with the air. It's one out of a few hundred natural eternal flames around the world. But the 30 feet tall waterfall is probably the most beautiful one. Now, how does it get lit the first time around? Usually, eternal flames can be ignited by lightning, human activity, or something called piezoelectricity, which is basically when certain materials make electricity when you squeeze, press, or twist them. Scientists believe that Native Americans lit these flames thousands of years ago, but that's just a hunch. Have you ever imagined going for a midnight swim and suddenly finding yourself surrounded by a glowing blue haze? As if there were huge cannons of light coming out of the seabed directly into the surface. This phenomenon is rare, but it sure is magical. This chemical reaction is known as bioluminescence, and it can happen in different situations. One example is when tiny algae organisms migrate near the seashores. When these algae are disturbed, they try to defend themselves by glowing, and just happen to create the most beautiful spectacle. There's also a specific place in the world where you can see a similar phenomenon. It's in New Zealand. Hidden deep within the country's caves lie the so-called glowworms. They are the larval species of a fungus that happen to be luminescent. If you're lucky enough to tour around these caves, you'll feel like you're floating inside an underground galaxy. The sky can create lots of different cool phenomena, and this specific one is called a crown flash. If you were seeing it with your own eyes, you'd see a column of light jumping or dancing near the top of a cumulus nimbus cloud. Think of cumulus nimbus as massive, towering clouds that look like fluffy mountains. These are the clouds that usually announce thunderstorms, lightning, and heavy rain. Now, although you'd probably think crown flashes looked like some supernatural energetic door opening to the heavens, this is a very scientific phenomenon. It happens when sunlight reflects off tiny ice crystals inside the cloud. But here's the cool part. Those ice crystals aren't just floating around randomly. They're moving because of shifts in the cloud's electric field. As the field changes, the ice crystals realign, and the light they reflect moves too. That's why the crown flash looks like it's flickering or waving. Crown flashes don't happen all the time. You need a thundercloud with the right conditions, lots of sunlight, ice crystals, and a strong electric field. If you ever spot one, consider yourself lucky. It's like nature showing off a rare light trick. We usually see ever-burning hills in sci-fi movies, but this one is real. Located in the Arctic region of Canada, the so-called Smoking Hills is an unmatched sight on our planet. And here, things get even a little science fiction-y, since some minerals that exist in these hills were only ever found in a few places on our planet and outside it, like on the surface of Mars. The ground of Smoking Hills has been releasing smoke for at least a couple hundred years, non-stop. Explorers thought the area was home to an active volcano, but that was not the case. As science explains, the soil in the area is formed by sulfur and coal, and when they're in contact with oxygen, they spontaneously ignite, releasing constant smoke. I just warn you, don't be getting any touristic ideas. The environment is extremely hostile to human life, as the smoke is toxic and its temperatures are dangerously high.